camouflage. Mama gets so Alexander's in the beat. Mama gets so Alexander's in the beat.
Join us as we uncover the astonishing details of these stories.
Mama gets so Sally
It
wants
was one of the
to
most
be
ironically tragic and
this way.
unintentionally life-saving events in the history of terrorism.
Alexander's
An unnamed female bomb-carrying militant, believed to be part of a militant Islamist group, met her end on New Year's Eve 2010 in Moscow, Russia. Known only as a Black Widow, she was carefully prepared for an attack that, if successful, would have unleashed horror on one of the world's most famous landmarks, Red Square. This historic site, spanning almost 73,000 square meters in the heart of Moscow, and bordered by iconic structures like St. Basil's Cathedral and the Kremlin, was filled with thousands of revelers preparing to ring in the new year. The woman's plan was to walk into the crowded square wearing an explosive belt and detonate it remotely via a text message sent by her handler, 24-year-old Zaya Sayunova, at the precise moment when the highest number of casualties could be inflicted. As standard practice among insurgents and terrorists, the explosive belt was wired to a mobile phone detonator, allowing the handler to trigger the device by sending a text. On the afternoon of December 31st, the woman and her two accomplices were at a safe house in Moscow, going through final preparations. They had already turned on the mobile phone that would serve as a detonation trigger, a critical mistake, as terrorist cells are usually meticulous in keeping such devices switched off until moments before an attack to prevent accidental detonation. In an astounding display of carelessness, the phone remained active as they organized the last details of the mission.
No.
Fate intervened in an almost absurd twist of events. As the woman stood in her hideout with the bomb strapped to her body, an automated Happy New Year promotional SMS was sent by the mobile provider. The spam text, meant to spread festive cheer, instantly activated the phone-based detonator. The belt exploded with devastating force, killing the would-be bomber on the spot and reducing the safe house interior to a scene of chaos.
Oh shit.
Her two accomplices survived the blast and fled the scene before authorities arrived, leaving behind a grim scene. Security sources later confirmed that the unnamed woman was suspected of being linked to the same radical Islamist cell responsible for the deadly bombing at Moscow's Domodedovo airport just days earlier, an attack that claimed 35 lives. The woman's untimely death not only exposed the group's staggering negligence, but also revealed how a simple oversight and a random spam message could derail a meticulously planned act of mass violence. Russian authorities emphasized how the terrorists' failure to adhere to their own basic operations such as inserting the SIM card only at the last moment or keeping the phone switched off, ultimately foiled their own plot. This incident, however, spared hundreds of innocent people who would have been gathered in Red Square
And
for
then
the
she
New
got
Year's
blown
Eve
up because
countdown.
the phone received a spam message and it was supposed to be, the phone was supposed to be turned off, but it wasn't. And then of course, the mobile carrier sent a spam message.
Planned atrocity into a self-inflicted disaster.
Blew it up too early because the phone received the mobile carrier sent a Happy New Year spam message. Oh no.
On Thanksgiving Day 2019, Ronald Shear, lost his life for the very homemade security system he had designed to protect himself. A respected figure in his community, Ronald was well known for his love of restoring classic cars and his successful business supplying custom car parts across Aroostook County. He was described as a generous brother, a devoted uncle, and someone who turned his passion into a respected profession. However, beneath his friendly demeanor lay years of frustration and fear, driven by what he believed was a string of burglaries at his home, coupled with a sense of abandonment by authorities he felt had dismissed his complaints. Ronald's concerns about repeated thefts, including missing tools and automotive supplies, had led him to take increasingly desperate measures. According to his siblings, he had been wary of the local police. We believe did not take his report seriously, even treating him as a feeling helpless and unsupported. Ronald turned to extreme means to defend his property. He began installing fences and security cameras. But when these efforts failed to ease his fears, he constructed a series of booby traps around his home, including a particularly lethal device rigged to his front door. This contraption, crafted to fire a handgun the moment the door was opened, was intended to stop any intruder who dared step inside. On the evening of November 28, 2019,
yeah.
Ronald was at home when tragedy
It
struck.
can cause injury.
In a moment that remains unclear,
Oh, yeah, true.
whether through a slip, a forgotten step, or an unintentional action, he triggered his own deadly device.
Oh, no.
The handgun discharged immediately, striking him and inflicting a critical wound. Despite his injury, Ronald managed to place a 911 call, calmly reporting that he had been shot. Officer Chandler Medore, along with medics from the Van Buren Ambulance Service, responded to the emergency. But despite their swift arrival and efforts to save him, Ronald succumbed to his injuries at the scene or shortly thereafter. When officers entered the home, they discovered not only the firearm-rigged door, but also several other unknown devices scattered throughout the residence. Concerned by the potential danger of these contraptions, police summoned the Maine State Police Bomb Squad, which worked through the early hours of November 29th to secure the area and investigate the scene. Authorities determined that Ronald's death was accidental. The result of the showing the extent of Ronald's fear and the extreme lengths he had gone to feel secure.
Doesn't seem like you are, because if
you testament to the hazards of
the
taking
person who's
home
okay wouldn't be
defense
losing
into
it
one's own
like
hands
that.
without the necessary expertise. Though his actions were driven by a genuine fear of burglary and a sense of being unheard,
The guy
the measures
perpetrated
he
his own home
adopted
and he
were
got shot up.
dangerously
He activated his own
excessive,
trap.
tragically
Oh my
misguided.
god.
Setting up devices in your home to protect you from intruders is illegal in the U.S.
Yeah,
if those devices
he
can
triggered his
inflict
own
injury.
trap. What an
There are
idiot.
several reasons for this, all stemming from the fact that life is considered more valuable than property.
Yeah, obviously.
Booby traps can inflict
Life is
accidental
life is
harm.
more valuable than property,
Secondly,
for God's
they
sake.
cannot distinguish between targets. Even if the trap is meant for a criminal, the person who sets it can't decide the punishment, despite their right to protect their home. This ironic and avoidable end, dying by the very device intended to shield him, serves as a stark warning about the perils of using lethal traps for self-defense.
Will you
In
stop
seeking
doing that?
safety, Ronald unknowingly
Stop doing
created the greatest threat to his own
Singing
life,
nonsense.
transforming his home into a place of deadly risk rather than refuge.
Well, that was an epic fail. Yeah, because he activated
In the
his
early
own
hours of
trap by
July 6,
mistake.
1999, the life of 27-year-old Daniel Dukes came to a surreal and heartbreaking end in a way that was both avoidable and tragic. Daniel's death shocked the world not only for its bizarre circumstances, but for the light it shed on the dangerous myths perpetuated by marine parks like SeaWorld. Daniel, a young man with a deep fascination for nature and spirituality, found himself in the grip of a fatal delusion about his connection with one of the ocean's most powerful predators, the orca. His quiet, childlike personality and longing for spiritual experiences made him especially vulnerable to the illusion, popularized by theme park shows, that these massive animals were gentle giants longing for human companionship. Born in South Carolina, Daniel had struggled with stability throughout his adult life. He drifted between places, living in a Hare Krishna temple for a time and often spending his days immersed in a fantasy of spiritual connection with the natural world. Despite brushes with the law, including a recent release from jail for petty theft, Daniel's love for animals remained a constant. His gentle demeanor and idealistic nature led him to believe in a world where humans and wild creatures could share deep, peaceful bonds. The shows he had seen at marine parks convinced him that killer whales were affectionate and approachable, perpetuating a dangerous misconception that captivity had tamed these apex predators into oversized, playful dolphins. On the night of July 5th, 1999, Daniel managed to stay hidden inside SeaWorld Orlando after the park closed. Evading the security measures and overnight staff, he made his way to G-Pool, the large tank where Tillicum, a 12,000-pound male orca, was kept.
That's not
Sometime before dawn, Daniel changed into his swim trunks, neatly folded his clothes by the pool, leaving behind his ID and a hand-rolled cigarette, and entered the water with Tillicum. Whether he intended to swim alongside the whale or simply sit near him remains unknown, but the outcome was catastrophic. By the time the sun rose, Daniel's lifeless, naked body was discovered draped across Tillicum's back as the whale calmly swam in circles. The first to notice Daniel's body was SeaWorld employee Michael Doherty, who arrived around 7 a.m. to begin his shift. He observed the corpse lying across Tillicum's back, already stiff with rigor mortis and discolored from lividity, indicating Daniel had been dead for several hours.
How the hell did he die?
Emergency responders were called immediately, but Daniel showed no signs of life. The Orange County Sheriff's Office report detailed multiple abrasions and lacerations on his body.
Brain damage.
An autopsy revealed his swim trunks had been torn apart, and his pubic region was seriously injured. Divers later retrieved human tissue, Daniel's scattered belongings, and his torn swimwear from different parts of the tank. SeaWorld quickly characterized Daniel as unstable, emphasizing his history of petty theft and odd behavior, while downplaying the role their shows might have played in fueling his delusions. His parents filed a wrongful death lawsuit against SeaWorld, arguing the park's romanticized portrayal of orcas misled visitors into believing the animals were harmless companions. They pointed out that the 3-foot plexiglass barrier around Tillicum's tank was woefully inadequate, allowing someone determined enough to enter the pool. The lawsuit, however, was ultimately dropped. Animal welfare advocates, including those featured in the documentary Blackfish, argued that Daniel's death exposed not only his personal tragedy, but also the consequences of keeping highly intelligent, powerful animals confined in small tanks, where boredom and frustration can lead to unpredictable aggression. Even more, Tillicum was an especially dangerous animal, having become unnaturally aggressive during his captivity. Of the 4 recorded fatal attacks by orcas in captivity, Tillicum was involved in 3. Daniel's story became a haunting example of how dangerous illusions about captive wildlife can end in horror. His death, ruled an accidental drowning, was Tillicum's second fatal encounter with a human, underlining the perils both for people and animals in captivity. This sad case revealed the gap between the myth of friendly marine mammals and the reality of their nature. It was an avoidable death born from a tragic delusion. Daniel believed he had a spiritual connection with an orca, yet it cost him his life and left behind painful questions about human ignorance and the ethics of marine captivity.
That orca was known to be aggressive since it was captured.
In December 2018, at just 28 years old, Bethan Roper was a passionate charity worker from Penarth, South Wales, known for her commitment to the Welsh Refugee Council and activism as chairwoman of Young Socialist Cardiff. On December 1st, she spent the day Christmas shopping with friends in Bath, enjoying the festive spirit. But as the evening fell and she boarded the Great Western Railway train to return home, a series of preventable circumstances unfolded with devastating consequences. Her life, marked by dedication to helping others and fighting for social justice, ended abruptly in an accident both avoidable and deeply Bethan had boarded the London Paddington to Exeter service, a train still using vintage MK3 coaches with drop-light windows originally introduced in the 1970s. These windows, which opened to allow access to exterior door handles, presented a long-known risk to passengers. Above the window was a small yellow warning sticker cautioning against leaning out while the train was moving. Yet the inquest declared here that this sign's wording and size were inadequate deterrents. Earlier fatal accidents involving similar drop-light windows had led to a risk assessment by Great Western Railway in 2016, with promises of improved warning signs by mid-2018. However, due to staff changes and a failed tracking system, these enhanced warnings were never installed, leaving the outdated and dangerous setup unchanged by the time Bethan boarded that evening. Just minutes after the train left Bath Spa Station and gathered speed to around 75 miles per hour through the Twerton area, Bethan leaned her head out of the drop-light window. Toxicology reports would later reveal she had a blood alcohol level of 142 milligrams per 100 milliliters, nearly twice the legal drink drive limit, likely impairing her judgment. Investigators established that one of Bethan's friends had opened the window earlier, and at least one other friend had also leaned out. When Bethan did so, her head struck an overgrown ash tree branch growing perilously close to the railway line, a branch that had been neglected for years. The impact caused catastrophic head injuries, and despite immediate efforts from fellow passengers, Bethan died at the scene, with ambulance staff declaring her deceased upon arrival at Bristol Temple Mead Station. The ash tree's branch that killed Bethan had been resting on a chain-link fence since at least February 2017, following inspections in 2009 and 2012 that failed to catch its hazardous encroachment. Expert testimony revealed the tree had been weakened by disease, and had Network Rail conducted more thorough specialist inspections, the danger might have been identified and eliminated before it became fatal. Meanwhile, the warning sticker on the train with its yellow caution wording was criticized for being too small and too vague to convey the real danger. The Rail Accident Investigation Branch noted that the word caution implied that leaning out might be done safely if done carefully. a fatal misunderstanding compounded by Bethan's intoxication. After a detailed inquest, the jury concluded that Bethan boarded the train under the influence of alcohol and leaned out of the window despite the warning, leading directly to her death from the head injury caused by the treater. Senior coroner Maria Voisin decided not to issue a preventing future deaths report, citing the phasing out of MK3 coaches in favor of modern trains with sealed windows and electronic doors, a measure that might prevent similar incidents. Nonetheless, the inquest highlighted a systemic failure to prioritize safety, the overdue replacement of hazardous carriages and long-ignored dangers along the railway line. Bethan's father, Adrian Roper, expressed hope that lessons would finally be learned, emphasizing how Bethan's death resulted from both personal recklessness and a failure by those responsible for train safety and track maintenance. He pointed out that her tragic death was a foreseeable outcome of these combined factors. In the aftermath, both Network Rail and Great Western Railway offered condolences and vowed to continue improving safety standards. Yet Bethan's needless death remains a reminder of how a split-second mistake, when combined with outdated infrastructure and neglected maintenance, can cost a vibrant life in the most devastating way possible. 53-year-old Sanjay Kapoor was a respected billionaire businessman, chairman of the global automotive giant Sona Comstar, and a prominent fixture on Britain's elite polo circuit, where he counted Prince William among his friends. Known for his charisma and generosity, Sanjay was admired both in India and abroad for his leadership and efforts to make polo more inclusive. But on June 12, 2025, Sanjay met a terrible, puzzling fate. Earlier that day, the billionaire had expressed condolences online for victims of a devastating plane crash, a reminder of his compassion and engagement with the world around him. His vibrant life ended in a shockingly unexpected and bizarre accident that highlighted life's fragility. Born in India and educated at the University of Buckingham, Sanjay was heir to Sona Comstar, founded by his father in 1987, and helped build it into a global player in automotive components, particularly for electric vehicles. He served as president of the Automotive Component Manufacturers Association of India and co-chaired the Confederation of Indian Industries Manufacturing Council. Personally, he was known for his love of polo, which he played passionately, often with members of the British royal family.
He was 53 as he died.
His social life bridged India's business elite and Britain's aristocracy. Married first to Bollywood star Karisma Kapoor, with whom he had 2 children, Sanjay later married entrepreneur Priya Sachdev, with whom he shared a young son, Azarias. Those close to him described him as someone who welcomed everyone equally, regardless of status, making him a beloved figure among friends, colleagues, and polo staff alike. On the afternoon of June 12th, Sanjay took to the field at Guards Polo Club in Windsor for the semi-final of the Cartier Queen's Cup, one of the sport's most prestigious events. The match, featuring his team Aureus against the Sujan Indian Tigers, began at 3 p.m. on Smith's Lawn, a ground steeped in royal tradition. Guards Polo Club, founded with Prince Philip as its first president and currently presided over by King Charles, is renowned as the most prestigious polo club in the world. With its royal connections and rigorous standards, it seemed an unlikely setting for a fatal accident unrelated to the dangers of the sport itself. But during the game, tragedy struck in the most improbable way. Sanjay reportedly swallowed a bee that entered his mouth while riding at speed. The insect stung him inside his mouth, triggering an anaphylactic reaction. This severe allergic response caused his airways to swell rapidly, blocking his breathing and sending his body into shock. In moments, Sanjay collapsed on the field, leaving teammates and spectators horrified. Despite immediate attempts to revive him, the reaction escalated quickly, resulting in a fatal heart attack before he could receive advanced medical care. Witnesses described how he had seemed joyful and full of life just moments earlier, making the suddenness of his collapse even more shocking. The aftermath of Sanjay's death reverberated across the polo world and beyond. The Guards Polo Club issued a statement expressing deep condolences to his wife Priya, his children, and the wider Kapoor family, acknowledging the profound shock felt by directors, members, and friends. The Hurling and Polo Association confirmed the incident had occurred during the match, but clarified it was not related to the physical demands of the sport itself. Ashoka University in New Delhi and the Doon School, Sanjay's alma mater, both released heartfelt tributes, remembering him as a visionary businessman and passionate sportsman whose legacy would endure. His company, Sona Comstar, mourned the sudden loss of a leader who had shaped its identity with passion and insight. This tragedy showed the random, devastating risks posed by severe allergies, even to those in prime health and peak fitness. Sanjay's senseless death from a bee sting during a routine game in one of the world's safest, most exclusive environments highlighted how life's smallest hazards can become catastrophes. For many, his passing was a sobering reminder of how quickly everything can change, turning a day of camaraderie and competition into a day marked by sorrow and disbelief.
As it is hard to do again, as I said, that's unfortunate. Do-de-do. Moga, so you've been nice.
Alcohol and driving have always been a deadly mix.
Yeah. Even says I said it's like
Alcohol and driving have always been a deadly mix. But some crashes caused by it stand out for how disturbing and unforgettable. In this video, we'll look at 5 real stories of DUI deaths that go far beyond ordinary accidents. Cases where one reckless choice led to destruction, shock, and tragedy that still haunts people today.
So you've been.
It was September 27, 2015 in Vaughan, Ontario. A calm Sunday afternoon. The Neville Lake family was on a simple outing in their minivan. Inside were 65-year-old Gary Neville, his wife Marisa, her mother Josephina Frias, and 3 children, Daniel, 9, Harrison, 5, and Millie, just 2 years old. Nothing seemed unusual that day, until they reached the intersection of Kirby Road and Kipling Avenue. At the same time, 29-year-old Marco Musso was returning from his bachelor party in Miami. He had been drinking heavily, continuing even on his private jet home to Toronto. Despite knowing he was not sober, he got into his black Jeep Cherokee after landing at Pearson International Airport. Later, he admitted he thought he could take a chance. That decision would change lives forever. Around 4 p.m., Vaughan Fire and Rescue responded to a major crash. 2 vehicles were wrecked, a family minivan and a Jeep Cherokee. Musso had run a stop sign driving 85 kilometers per hour, about 53 miles per hour, through a residential intersection. His Jeep slammed directly into the driver's side of the minivan in a T-bone collision. Inside the minivan, the family was crushed. Over 30 first responders tried to save them. 4 were resuscitated at once, but it was too late. 9-year-old Daniel died instantly. Harrison and Millie were declared brain dead and later passed away in the hospital. Their grandfather, Gary, was also pronounced dead. Nerissa and Josephina survived, but with severe injuries. Witnesses noticed Musso was staggering, confused, and unable to stand. He had even lost control of his bladder. A blood test showed 245 milligrams of alcohol per 100 milliliters, almost 3 times the legal limit. He was arrested at the scene. The crash made headlines that night. Jennifer Neville Lake, the children's mother, recognized her family's van on the news. Police took her to the hospital where she identified her children and father. She had lost all 3 children and her dad in a single moment. The deaths shocked Canada. Many questioned how someone from a wealthy family with a history of reckless behavior was still allowed to drive. Musso had 10 past speeding violations and a 2012 arrest for public intoxication after a nightclub altercation. In February 2016, he pleaded guilty to 4 counts of impaired driving causing death and 2 counts of causing bodily harm. A month later, he was sentenced to 10 years in prison with a 12-year driving ban, the harshest sentence in Canada for a first-time impaired driving conviction. But for the Neville Lake family, it wasn't enough. Musso served his time in a minimum security facility. He applied for parole in 2018 but was denied. In 2020, he was granted day parole, and by 2021, he was fully released after nearly 5 years of imprisonment. His release came with restrictions, but many felt justice had not been served. The toll on the Neville Lake family was unbearable. Jennifer revealed she had been pregnant at the time of the crash but lost the pregnancy soon after. Her husband, Edward Lake, sank into despair. He often spoke about living in a nightmare and struggling with his mental health. On June 20th, 2022, one day after Father's Day, Edward was found dead at age 49. Jennifer wrote, "My children's father, Edward Lake, has joined our kids so they can play together forever. Mahal kita, Edward." Mahal kita is the Filipino phrase for I love you. Jennifer later created a nonprofit called Many Hands Doing Good to support children coping with trauma. Each year, she posts photos of her children's untouched lunchboxes on their graves, writing what school grade they should be in. After Muzo's release, petitions called for the removal of his family's name from buildings funded by their billion-dollar construction company. But hospitals and institutions refused, even Sick Kids Hospital, the same place where 2 of the children had been pronounced dead. In a 2020 statement, Muzo said, "I was careless and irresponsible. I will live with this for the rest of my life." But for Jennifer, the reality is different. She lost her children, her father, and later her husband. And while Marco Muzo now walks free, her family will never be whole again. It was February 1st, 2020 in Oaklands, a quiet suburb in western Sydney. For the Abdallah and Sakra families, it was a normal Saturday. 7 children, siblings Anthony, Angelina, and Sienna Abdallah, their cousin Veronique Sakra, and 3 friends were walking to a local shop to buy ice cream. It was meant to be a simple outing, but within seconds, their lives changed forever. At the same time, 30-year-old Samuel William Davidson was driving his blue Mitsubishi 4-wheel drive. He wasn't just speeding. He had spent the day drinking and using substances. It began at 7 a.m., consuming beer, rum, vodka cruisers, and more. Toxicology reports later confirmed he also had MDMA and other substances in his system.
No.
Witnesses saw him shirtless, laughing, and making rude gestures out the window as he sped through Sydney's northwestern suburbs. He ran red lights, swerved across lanes, and even forced a motorcyclist off the road. By the time he reached Bennington Road in Oaklands, Davidson was driving recklessly. It was a quiet residential street, not a place for high speeds. But as he hit a sharp downhill turn, he pushed his vehicle to around 133 kilometers per hour in a 50 zone. At impact, his speed was about 111 kilometers per hour. He lost control. The car mounted the curb and plowed into the group of children from behind. The force dragged some of them against a nearby fence, spreading victims across more than 17 meters. 4 children died instantly. 13-year-old Anthony, 12-year-old Angelina, 8-year-old Sienna, and 11-year-old Veronique. 3 others were badly injured. One, Charbel Casas, fell into a coma for weeks, but miraculously survived. Davidson stepped out of the car unharmed. Witnesses heard him mutter, "What have I done? I'm going to jail." Emergency crews arrived quickly, but it was too late. Within minutes, nearly 200 people gathered, overcome with grief. Police had to call the riot squad to control the scene. That night, Davidson was filmed shirtless and handcuffed as officers took him away. The next morning, cameras gathered outside the Abdallah family home. Many expected silence. Instead, the father, Danny Abdallah, spoke through tears. He described his children. Anthony loved basketball and wanted to honor Kobe Bryant in his next game. Angelina was his little helper. Sienna was the family's actress, always lively and full of energy. "These kids were just walking innocently," he said. "And now I've lost 3 of them." Incredibly, his wife, Layla, also spoke. Despite her grief, she said she did not hate Davidson. That choice to forgive shocked the nation. Davidson's parents said their son was a good boy who made a devastating mistake. Years earlier, Davidson's sister had died from cystic fibrosis, and afterward he turned to alcohol as a way to cope. "I hid behind the bottle," he later admitted. In April 2021, Davidson pleaded guilty to 9 charges, including 4 counts of manslaughter. He was sentenced to 28 years with a minimum of 21. On appeal, it was reduced to 20 years with a non-parole period of 15. While in prison, Davidson turned to faith, studying the Bible and attending Mass. He credited the Abdallah family's forgiveness for giving him hope. In time, he even met face-to-face with Danny Abdallah. They prayed together, and Danny spoke about each of his children. When asked if Davidson should remain in prison, Danny replied, "If it were up to me, I'd bring him out tomorrow. Justice is to have my kids back." In 2024, when the Abdallahs welcomed their 8th child, Davidson called from prison to congratulate them. The Oaklands tragedy shook Australia. Thousands attended vigils, leaving flowers and photos at the crash site. In court, the children's families delivered emotional statements. Veronique's mother said, "No court or sentence can ever compensate for what we've lost." Through it all, the Abdallahs continued to share one message: not anger, but forgiveness. As Danny said, there are no winners in this. All we can do is try to find joy in the middle of pain.
This is what causes liver failure. Zago
It was
distortion.
February 9th, 2014, in Diamond Bar, California. Olivia Carolee Culbreath was 21 years old, a young mother from Fontana. Her son was just 11 days old. That early morning, Olivia made a choice that would forever change many lives. At around 4:40 a.m., she got into a red Chevrolet Camaro after drinking and drove the wrong way on the freeway at more than 100 miles per hour. Witnesses began calling 911, reporting a red Camaro speeding north in the southbound lanes of the 57 freeway. Soon after, the same car was spotted heading east in the westbound lanes of the 60 freeway. One caller warned that something terrible was about to happen. Moments later, Olivia's Camaro slammed head-on into a red Ford Explorer. The impact was so strong that both cars were destroyed. Inside the Explorer was a family of four. 47-year-old Gregorio Mejia Martinez, his wife, 42-year-old Leticia Ibarra, their 20-year-old daughter, Jessica Jasmine Mejia, and Jessica's 80-year-old grandmother, Esther Delgado. All four were killed instantly. In Olivia's Camaro, her sister, 24-year-old Maya Louise Culbreath, and friend 21-year-old Kristen Melissa Young also died at the scene. Olivia was the only one to survive. Another driver, 57-year-old Joel Cortez, was caught in the crash in his Ford Freestyle. He survived with minor injuries. He later described leaving for work like any other Sunday morning, then suddenly seeing a red blur before a massive collision. His car slammed into the divider. Dazed, he looked around at the wreckage, metal, and bodies on the road. Unsure if he would survive, he called his children to say goodbye. Paramedics rushed in. Olivia was badly injured and taken to the hospital where she was treated for weeks before being moved to the Twin Towers Correctional Facility in Los Angeles. News spread fast. People were shocked that a young mother, less than 2 weeks after giving birth, had caused one of the worst wrong-way crashes in California's history. Investigators discovered Olivia's blood alcohol level was 0.15%, nearly twice the legal limit. A 24-ounce beer can was found in her car. Surveillance video from earlier that night showed her at some point she got behind the wheel despite her history of dangerous driving. Her record included a conviction at 17 for impaired driving after crashing into a pole. Her license had been suspended multiple times, once for negligence. Just days before the crash, it was reinstated. Authorities had even warned her that another serious violation could lead to murder charges. In court, Olivia was eventually charged with 6 counts of second-degree murder. After years of delays in May 2018, she pleaded no contest. She told the court she accepted full responsibility, saying she prayed daily for the victims' families and wished she could trade places with those who died. The families spoke of their pain. Mary Mejia lost her parents, sister, and grandmother all at once. Kristen Young's mother said she struggled to keep living after her daughter's death. Olivia's own mother said her daughter had always tried to help people and was now raising her son through jail visits. One attorney described Olivia as deeply remorseful, saying she often asked why she had survived. Still, the judge rejected a lighter sentence and gave her 30 years to life, 5 years for each life lost. The prosecutor added that despite her apology, Olivia's defense at times tried to shift blame. Outside court, Kristen Young's mother said she believed Olivia knew she was over the limit, but didn't think anything would happen. Today, Olivia remains in custody. She will be eligible for parole after 25 years. Until then, she lives with the memory of that night, a night that left 6 people dead and countless others carrying grief that will never fade. It was June 28th, 2024, in Alexander's afternoon. People were shopping, enjoying the summer weather and preparing for the weekend. At Hawaii Nail and Spa, about 43 miles outside New York City, the salon was busy. Customers sat chatting with their nail technicians, unaware that danger was seconds away. Among them was 30-year-old NYPD officer Emilia Renner. She was off duty, getting her nails done for a colleague's wedding later that evening. Emilia had joined the police force in 2018 and worked at the 102nd Precinct in Queens. Her husband, Detective Carl Renhack, was also a police officer. The two had just married in September. Emilia never made it to the wedding. At 4:30 p.m., a 2020 Chevy Traverse, driven by 64-year-old Stephen Schwally, sped off the road, tore through the parking lot, and smashed straight into the salon. The accelerator was pressed nearly to the floor. The SUV was traveling 78 miles per hour, more than the legal limit. The car plowed through the front window, destroying chairs, walls, and equipment. Screams filled the room. 4 people were struck and died instantly. 9 others, including a 12-year-old girl, were badly hurt. The victims were Emilia Renhack, 30, salon owner Jankai Ken Chen, 37, employee Yan Shu, 41, and worker Maisie Zhang, 50. The injured included Jankai's wife, Wenjun Cheng, 35, Ana Garcia, 53, Nicole Miele, 54, Michael Mahali, 58, Carol Garcia, 23, Tony Sachente, 32, Crystal Rodriguez, 37, Nicole Sachente, 55, and the unidentified child. Surveillance cameras showed Schwally's movements earlier that day. At 11 a.m., he entered a liquor store and bought 2 small bottles of Montebello Long Island iced tea. A strong alcoholic drink. The cashier said he was a regular customer, often buying the same beverage twice a day. Afterward, he was seen driving recklessly around Deer Park, speeding through parking lots, swerving, and nearly hitting pedestrians. One witness recalled their mother describing the SUV as moving like a bullet moments before it slammed into the salon. Inside the car, police later found the empty bottles. Another unopened one was discovered in his hotel room. Schwally admitted he had consumed 18 beers the night before, stopping only around 4 a.m. When questioned, he didn't ask about the victims. Instead, he told officers, "I haven't broken any laws. Can I get my license back? I'm a Marine." Police noted his slurred speech, bloodshot eyes, and the smell of alcohol. His blood alcohol level was 0.17, more than twice the legal limit. This wasn't his first offense. In 2013, Schwally was arrested after crashing into a mailbox and later found asleep in his car with the engine running. He pleaded guilty and had his license suspended. His brother later said Stephen had a long history of drinking and driving, sometimes refusing breath tests. He described him as aggressive and troubled, saying, "It's like my worst nightmare come true. I feel terrible about innocent people getting hurt." On August 1st, 2024, Schwally appeared in court facing a 38-count indictment. Charges included second-degree manslaughter, vehicular assault, reckless driving, and aggravated vehicular homicide. He pleaded not guilty and was ordered held without bail. If convicted, he faces 25 years to life in prison. Inside the courtroom sat Detective Carl Renhack. As charges were read, he broke down in tears. The woman he had just married was gone. The other families also carried deep losses. Jun Kai-chen left behind his wife and 2 children. Yang Shu had been supporting her sick mother and son in China. Maisie Zhang never had the chance to react. The crash left behind shattered glass, ruined furniture, and a community shaken. Online, people expressed anger and grief, demanding Schwally never be free again. Suffolk County's district attorney said Schwally had shown no concern for public safety. NYPD Commissioner Edward Caban mourned the loss of Officer Renhack. For Amelia's husband, her family, and the others affected, June 28th was supposed to be an ordinary day. Instead, it ended in tragedy caused by one man's reckless choice. Schwally now sits behind bars awaiting judgment. It was shortly after midnight on February 21st, 2025 in Miami Beach, Florida. 19-year-old Gabriela Alejandra Rios Flores, an international student from El Salvador, was on the side of the MacArthur Causeway. Her Jeep Wrangler had broken down in the westbound lanes. A police officer had just helped her push it onto the shoulder to keep it out of traffic. Gabriela stayed inside the car, waiting for more help from her. Gabriela was a student at Florida International University studying communication. She had graduated from Escuela Interamericana in El Salvador before moving to the United States. Her life centered around education and creating a better future. But that night, everything shifted within seconds. With her were 2 other FIU students, 18-year-old Nana Khan and 18-year-old Munasir Ali. The 3 had just left the South Beach Wine and Food Festival when Gabriela's Jeep stalled. The 2 young men stood nearby as she waited in the driver's seat. Then a silver Polestar Model 2 approached. Behind the wheel was 24-year-old Nicholas Devin Robinson. Robinson had been celebrating his birthday at bars in South Beach. Police later reported that he was impaired and driving about 100 miles per hour in a 40-mile-per-hour zone. The Miami Beach K-9 officer, who had just finished helping Gabriela move her car, noticed Robinson's vehicle speeding dangerously toward them. Moments later, Robinson swerved. He struck a cement divider, then slammed into the back of Gabriela's Jeep. The crash was devastating. The impact hurled the Jeep across another divider, flipping it into the eastbound lanes. Gabriela was thrown from the car, landing on the road near the wreckage. She was rushed to Jackson Memorial Hospital's Ryder Trauma Center, but her injuries were too severe. Despite doctors' efforts, she did not survive. Daniel Kahn was also hurt. His left forearm was broken, leaving him unable to stand or move properly. He later told CBS News Miami that he only remembered the car speeding toward them before realizing his arm was broken. Munasir Ali, while not physically injured, was shaken and later said, "She was a very good friend of ours. I cannot process this. We want justice." Robinson, however, seemed unaware of the situation. When pulled over, he appeared confused and asked officers, "Why are you stopping me? It's my birthday. Did you get the other car?" Police noted his slurred speech, bloodshot eyes, and strong smell of alcohol. While in custody, he vomited and refused a blood test. A warrant was obtained and his blood was drawn on the scene. The crash shut down the MacArthur Causeway for several hours. Robinson was first charged with impaired driving and reckless driving causing serious injury. After Gabriela's death, the charges were raised to vehicular homicide and manslaughter while impaired, both felonies. In court, Miami-Dade County Judge Mindy S. Glazer called the case serious, pointing out Robinson's speed and confusion. She set his bond at $200,000 and ordered house arrest if released. He remains held at the Metro West Detention Center. Robinson's lawyer entered a not guilty plea, saying he is waiting for evidence from prosecutors. Gabriella's family in El Salvador is represented by attorney Jonathan Friedland, who also represents Daniel and Mudasir. He told reporters that this case must uncover the full truth and hold those responsible accountable. Police documents show Robinson had been drinking at a lounge before driving nearly triple the speed limit. Witnesses and surveillance confirmed the car was speeding and swerving before the fatal crash. Daniel Kahn summed up the loss. She was my friend and I lost her. I hope the state attorney takes this case to the fullest and gives us justice. Robinson now faces multiple felony charges, including manslaughter while impaired, vehicular homicide, reckless driving causing injury, and impaired driving causing serious injury. Sadly, this wasn't the only tragedy in the area. Just months earlier, FIU professor Toshimi Abejaniga also lost her life in a separate crash caused by reckless driving. For Gabriella, it was supposed to be an ordinary night. A young woman focused on her studies and future was waiting safely in her car after a breakdown. Instead, her life ended because someone chose to drive recklessly. The case continues in Miami-Dade County, and for her family and friends, the hope is that justice will be served.
Alexander digging back, Mama girl so my Mama girl so you garbage bin, Mama girl so, and Mama girl know this is wrong you've been, Mama girl so, Mama girl so. Mama so this is wrong for Mama so the beanie is on fire. Mama so this is wrong you beanie. Mama so you dingbags. Mama so.
What's myself? What's myself? The album was from 1990. Yeah. Oh. Shh, give me side 9. Bin 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 bin. Oh, we're so tonight. Oh, isn't it coming? On April 15, 1962, and he died May 4th, 2021. He was 59 as he died. He died following 3 years with bone marrow cancer. Don't affect your body, yours, that you can't sweeten the human and you suffer too much. They can't die. Okay. This is the idea from I promised myself, yeah. 1990, yeah. Mama girl, so you beanie. Nee. How many of us out there? I'm sure the pain of losing what was once there has got to know what people say about it. No mistake who can live without love. Mama girl, so you beanie. Alexander puts respiratory shits in his bottom.
Everyday objects are meant to make life
Alexander eats out of the garbage bin.
turn deadly.
Alexander shines on bright. It says bottom shines on bright.